For a while, anyway.
Here you go.
No, yeah, but the thing is, it's not set up as a. Send the link for just like the meeting and after the recording. Okay.
The city attorney that's representing the department, he's not gonna be here. Oh, wow, sure, he's gone. As well as, the hearing officer, Patricia Calabro. So you sign this, I'm not sure if you wanna stay, since the other parties are not here, like I had mentioned to you over the phone. Or you can go. Yes?
I know that I have to just at least go up, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna go.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you for showing.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is a meeting of the El Paso Civil Service Commission for Thursday, February 13th, 2025. We have Victor Vasquez present and presiding as vice chair. We commence this meeting at 6:06 p.m. Will everyone please silence all their electronic devices as to not disturb the meeting? Now let us rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us begin by taking a roll call of the commissioners present for the record. As I call your name, please state present. From District 2, Vice Chair Commissioner Victor Vasquez.
Present.
From District 4, Commissioner Woodrow Bear.
Present.
From District 6, Commissioner Carlos Gonzalez.
Present.
From District 7, Commissioner Homero Lucero.
Present.
From District 8, Commissioner Larry Porras.
Present.
From the Mayor's Office, Commissioner Elsa Borrego, not present. Thank you. Commissioners, per the rules of order for this meeting, no use of personal cell phones or communication should take place while the meeting is in session. Once you obtain the floor from the podium, please speak into the microphone by clicking the red button to green. Please refrain from side conversation while the meeting is in session. For those of you joining virtually, please mute your microphones to reduce any background noise. That brings us to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda will be considered by the Civil Service Commission to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the commission or persons in the audience request specific items to be removed from the commission agenda to the regular agenda for discussion before the time the commission votes on the motion to adopt the consent agenda. Prior to the vote, members of the audience may ask questions regarding items on the consent agenda. When the vote has been taken, if an item has not been called out for separate discussion, the item has been approved. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Simone, thank you very much for helping us out. I'm Victor Vasquez. I am the commissioner for District 2. I'm vice chair, but since our chair resigned at the last meeting, I am presiding right now temporarily as your chairman. And for those of you in the audience, just to remind you, your Civil Service Commission is here on a volunteer basis. That is to say, each one of us as a commissioner here is here as a volunteer. We've been appointed by the city rep for each district to be doing the duties that we're doing here today. And I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. All right, so the consent agenda is 3 items. 1, approval of the minutes of the meeting that was last held on December 12th. And I'd like to make a note that we have not met since December 12th. And that's because we have been unable to get a quorum. And so to show you how important it is that when appointed, you fulfill your duties as a volunteer. Number 2 is the notation, the schedule of the 2025 Civil Service Commission monthly meetings coming up for this year. And number 3 on the consent agenda is the assignment of a hearing officer to disciplinary appeals. And those hearing officers, or the cases anyway, that will be turned over to our hearing officer are Adriana Nunez of Sun Metro regarding a 10-day suspension, and John Cubello, Environmental Services, regarding a 10-day suspension. So, are there any changes to the 3 agenda items?
No changes, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
And, okay,
Who first moved, please?
say your name.
Who second, please?
Go
Thank
ahead
you.
and state your name for the record, so that way we got it, everybody knows.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, the motion has been, made to approve, and it's been seconded. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And no opposed? Okay, so it passes. All right. So the motion passes unanimously, and we move on to our regular agenda. And the first is to hold an election, the annual election for Civil Service Commission Chair, which I am right now temporarily holding up at this point, and also to hold an election for my position as Vice Chair. So it's open now to the floor for nominations.
Chair, just to be clear, for the time being, we're only taking nominations for the position of chair. And once we move on to action item number 5, that'll be vice chair.
Okay, so let's do the chair first. So any nominations for chair of the Civil Service Commission?
I nominate Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Woodrow Bear nominated myself and seconded by Carlos Gonzalez. Any other nominations? Okay, we ready to take a vote?
Mr. Vice Chair, do you accept your nomination?
I certainly do. I accept my, thank you very much for your support. So, all in favor?
Aye.
And no opposition. All right. Thank you very much. So now we move on to someone, thank you. It was a hard campaign, but thank you. All right, again, so now moving on to vice chair, someone to fill the position as vice chair. We're open for nominations. I cannot nominate anybody right now, so I'm your tiebreaker in this situation. And if we have no nominations, what do we do? We turn to our legal counsel for that
We
one.
wait for someone to nominate somebody else, so. Or someone to volunteer.
I'll volunteer. I may regret it, but I'll volunteer.
You have a volunteer, so is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for Omar Lucero for vice chair.
I may regret that, too.
I'll second.
Okay, Homero Lucero has been nominated, and he has accepted
Yes.
the nomination. Any other nominations?
Who
Simon?
seconded? Who seconded, please?
Carlos Gonzalez.
That's even.
Who motioned?
No,
Mr. Gonzalez made a motion, followed by the second to Mr. Bear.
but Mr. Homero, he voluntarily agreed to be nominated. Okay.
Okay, I have first motion as Commissioner Gonzalez. Who seconded the motion? Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, so welcome, Homero Lucero, to the vice chair. All right, thank you. Welcome. All right, so now we move on to our agenda, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And that-
Agenda item number 6.
Agenda item number 6 is a PowerPoint presentation on the Civil Service Commission role and responsibilities, the City of El Paso Code of Conduct, and the virtual attendance policy. And this will be presented by Assistant City Attorney Roberto Aguinaga.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commission. My name is Robert Aguilar. I'm Assistant City Attorney for the City of El Paso. I'm just going to go over basically the Civil Service Commission. This is a annual kind of update for the benefit of the commission, new commissioners, and the public about the roles of the commission and myself as legal advisor. So first off, the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission is established in the city charter. That is our governing document. It is our constitution for the city, and it is there to ensure the personnel system is based solely on merit and no other nefarious means. It's there to ensure fairness, economy, and efficiency in the selection process of the personnel system. That includes hiring, firing, and any type of disciplinary action. And it's there to make sure that all actions are predictable, consistent, non-political, and transparent. The duties and responsibilities of the Civil Service Commission are outlined in our city charter, Article 6, as well as Ordinance 8065 and amended, as well as its own civil service rules. The Civil Service Commission is one of the city's few what we call quasi-judicial boards, which means that it has oversight and decision-making powers, unlike many other boards that are only kind of advisory, just to recommend things to City Council. Civil Service Commission actually gets to make some decisions. So that is why the Civil Service Commission is held to a higher standard than many other commissions and committees in the city. That being said, the commission must still abide by the framework that is in the charter and its own rules and ordinances. The roles of the commission. It is to be neutral, fact-finding, impartial body. This extends out to when you assign a hearing officer to fill in your role, to be that neutral, fact-finding, impartial body. Decides appeals of discipline that have been properly filed. It is not an advocate for either side. This commission is not here to advocate for the city. It is not here to advocate for employees specifically, but for the good of the service. And it does have that oversight of the civil service. Some of the functions and duties of the Civil Service Commission. It is here to recommend any kind of amendments to the charter or ordinance. So as the Civil Service Commission can recommend to city staff if they believe that there are certain aspects of either the code, the charter, or the rules that are no longer in the best interest of the personnel of the city, it can make those recommendations. Again, these are recommendations. It cannot change the current rules and regulations. It is also there to investigate matters concerning those rules. So as things are discovered that might be an issue, once again, it can make those recommendations to city staff. And this is in our city charter, section 6.1 and 2. A little bit more about the duties. Again, this also extends out to when a hearing officer is assigned. It is here to hear appeals and complaints as prescribed by the charter and rules. And once again, to make sure that that process is fair and equitable to all persons. That does extend out to the city as well. So it's fair and equitable to the employee and to the city. Will appoint hearing officers, like it was just done, to oversee some of these cases. And once that hearing officer has made a recommendation, to hear that recommendation or any type of appeals that might arise from the hearing officer's decision. Here are a couple of common types of appeals that the commission might encounter. Disciplinary appeals, of course, those are the ones that end up in suspensions or terminations. Qualification reviews, much like what we are going to hear very soon when certain individuals, employees, are denied potential promotions for whatever qualification deficiencies that were determined, and some grievances as well. A little bit more about the discipline appeal review by the hearing officer when it does step in the shoes of the commission. So whether it be the hearing officer or whether it be the commission hearing the matter on a de novo appeal, it is there to determine whether the evidence that is presented at the time sustains the discipline that was made by the city, which basically means the city has investigated the matter, it has made a determination and has disciplined an employee. When it comes to the hearing officer or the commission, those bodies are to look at the evidence that is presented and to determine whether the city was correct in that discipline. And again, it's to whether the city was consistent with the application, using the rules of the city, the charter, and its own internal rules. And also, this goes to, does the good of the service require the discipline to be upheld or reduced? Now, this is a little bit a broader term, and I think a good example might be the 911 operator who is suspended for 10 days, but we don't have enough 911 operators. So as opposed to calls being missed, this commission can determine that the good of the service would go to deny that suspension. So those are kinds of things that we'd be looking for that would fall under that category. Lastly, when we are looking at the evidence, it is by what we call preponderance of the evidence. There are several different types of burdens of proof, is what we call them in evidence. The highest is what you probably have heard in TV dramas, with that beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the criminal standard. That is, a reasonable person cannot find it. But that is not the level that the commission or the hearing officer is going to be looking at. It is going to be preponderance of the evidence. And what preponderance of the evidence we're looking at, is it more likely or not to have happened? Basically 51%, right? If you think that it's pretty close, but 51% goes to the employee, 51% goes to the city, that would be enough. That is the preponderance. As I mentioned, this is the same standard for a lot of civil cases, tort cases, personal injury cases, contract disputes. That would be a similar one, and like I mentioned, much, much lower standard than a criminal one. Once the hearing officer has heard a review, it would come to the commission for its approval or disapproval. But what we're looking for is, what is the error that is being alleged, if there's any at all? Review any relevant documents. That includes the evidence that was presented, that's a part of the packet, and any type of written brief that either side may present. And then once that's done, the commission will look to, what did the hearing officer follow the relevant rules, charters, ordinances, and laws in making that decision? And finally, is there new evidence that is being presented at the time that was not available at the time that the hearing officer heard it? So this is not new evidence that one party just withheld for whatever reason. This is new evidence that was not known. For example, maybe a video recording that was not known of suddenly pops up, showing something very different, sheds that evidence in a new light. So that would be something. Of course, also we have to investigate why that would have happened. So once that hearing officer makes the opinion, what are the options for the commission? First off, they can accept, so you all as the body can accept the hearings officer's recommendation. That closes it, your decision is final. You can reduce the hearing officer's recommendation. Now, when we're reducing the recommendation, it is important to know that you have to keep apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Reductions cannot change the nature of the recommendation. If the recommendation is termination, it cannot be moved to 30-day suspension. If the recommendation is a suspension of 10 days, it can be reduced to 1 day or however the commission determines. The commission can also remand it to the hearing officer for the development of that newly discovered evidence that we discussed. For example, that video that just appeared, that issue can be remanded with the direction to the hearing officer, look at this evidence and see if that changes the recommendation. Lastly, the commission can reject outright the hearing officer's recommendation, in which case the entire case would be done what we call de novo, Latin for new, and that would require a full hearing, much like the hearing officer had, in front of the full commission. So that would be, you would once again step in the shoes of the hearing officer. You no longer become a sort of appeals court, but you become the actual fact finder and the determiner of that. And so, yes. The other one, well, much of what we're going to hear today, for example, the appeals of disqualifications, we're looking at what specific qualification does the employee allege was wrongfully disqualified. So that's the first step. What is the qualification that the city is alleging that the employee does not have? It is not broad, it's not every kind of thing. It is what is that specific qualification that is alleged to not possess. Did the city apply the rules correctly? Did the city look at everything correctly? Did they apply their own rules correctly to make sure that the employee got the fairest treatment in determining whether or not that employee does qualify? Again, we go back to this preponderance of evidence. This burden does fall on the employee. The employee has to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the city committed this error. So it is not the city to show that the employee does not have the qualifications. It's on the employee to show that they do have the qualifications. And lastly, what is the remedy sought? For most of these do end up in whether they are not placed on a promotion list, not qualified to take exam. I believe most of the procedure is that they take the exam regardless, but what is the remedy that the employee is asking for? Once it comes to the employee and city presenting their appeal before the commission, there are certain rules regarding oral arguments, debate, and decorum amongst the commission and all members present. Each side is granted time to present either a written brief or arguments, and that determination is made by the chairperson. The rules do say that that total time per side cannot extend past 45 minutes with an additional 15 minutes extension by majority vote of the commission. That is not to say that every party gets 45 minutes automatically. The chairman can determine a shorter length of time depending on the complexity and of each case. Each commissioner has up to 5 minutes to speak after being recognized, so every commissioner will have an equal amount of time to ask questions or voice their opinion. Please remember, no commissioner shall interrupt, argue, or personally attack any other member of the commission, the staff, or party. And this, of course, goes to any other person that is speaking before the commission. And anybody that does wish to speak to the commission does need to be recognized by the chair first off, so that we can make sure that nobody's talking over each other and everybody does have their equal time and opportunity to be heard. There are some limitations to the powers of the Civil Service Commission. First and foremost, any kind of issue regarding discrimination and harassment is not included in the Civil Service Commission. That goes directly to EEOC, the Equal Opportunity, and that is outside. Please remember that as a quasi-judicial body, that there are no what we call ex parte communications, no communicating with any party outside of this meeting room, outside of the meeting. So no communicating with the parties regarding the case. If you have a friend that's representing an employee, more than welcome to speak to them at a Super Bowl party, whatever it might be, but please don't talk about that case at that time. Also, please remember, one of the big limitations is, once again, this body is not a policy-making body. It cannot create a policy, it cannot change policy, but as mentioned at the very beginning, it can recommend new policy or recommend changes to the policy to the city council through its staff. That is one of its duties, one of its functions is to make that recommendation, but not to actually change the policy. The roles of the legal advisor, myself and Mr. Estrada, who are our outside counsel. Myself works for the city attorney's office with expertise in municipal and employment law. So we're here to help review the agenda, assist in any kind of compliance with Texas Open Meetings Act, help guide in compliance with the city charter, the rules, the ordinances, and to advise on the meaning applications of those. Also to advise the commission on any legal issues and a potential related risk of liability. We are neutral. Even though I personally work for the city attorney's office, I'm not here to advocate for the city. I am not here to advocate for an employee. I am here to advocate for you all as the commissioners and the commission. I am not a part of any type of disciplinary reviews when it comes to any of these cases that come by. I'm screened off, so I do not have any knowledge about these cases up until I get the same packet that you do for review. Here to advise the commission on its obligations and potential risks. A little bit of our virtual attendance policy. A quorum still must be present physically. So in order for a quorum to count, that number has to be physically present. A commissioner who is not physically present and is joining us over Teams can still vote for any matter, and that vote still counts just if they were present, but they don't count if for the purposes of quorum. If you do know that you are going to be missing a day or you cannot make it physically, you can request to appear virtually, but we do ask that that be done by 10 a.m. the preceding week, and you cannot ask for that 3 months in advance. So if you know if you're going to miss in October, please wait till January to let someone know about that. Removal from office. Commissioners can be removed from office. That is an action of council. That would have to go to the city council, but it can be done. The removal for incompetence, nonfeasance, misfeasance, or malfeasance. For example, neglect of duty, consistently missing could result in that. Not only that, but after missing certain amounts, the commission can send a letter to the representative or the city council to notify the city council of that commissioner's consistent absence. Refusal to perform a duty as directed by the charter. The charter says that you must do this, you must do this. It is not in your purview to change what that charter says. Nonfeasance, neglecting, misfeasance, not doing an act the correct way or omitting it, and of course malfeasance, which is basically purposely not acting in accordance. And this is where you do open yourselves up to personal liability if you do act outside the scope or against the advice of counsel. While the city is here as the attorney to help represent you as a commission, if you do act outside that, that is where it is possible that you open yourself to personal liability, and that is not something the city would be responsible for representing. As commissioners, you are bound by the ethics code and ethics ordinance, so must comply with the law and city policy, make decisions and act on facts, never disclose confidential information, respect the city process, maintain a positive workplace environment. And this is all outlined in City Code 2.92 and the Code of Conduct. As mentioned, commission members are subject to the same sanctions as other city officials who would violate the ethics code. And again, a reminder that violating the code or going against the advice of the city attorney's office or legal counsel could open you up to personal liability. And with that, any questions? Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. That moves us on to item number 7. Discussion and action on disqualification appeal. Benjamin Minjares, Streets and Maintenance Ordinance 8065, Civil Service Commission Rule 5, Section 1, Application and Appeals Policy and Promotional Process Policy.
And Mr. Chairman, there are 6 appeals scheduled for today. In the interest of time and efficiency, I recommend on this one, each party be given 5 minutes each, including time for the commission.
Any questions or objections to that? Okay, then we'll try to proceed with that, to keep things succinct. Okay, next.
Chair, just so you're aware, or you know, Mr. Benjamin Minjares did not sign in. I'm not sure if he's here now, but he did not sign in.
Benjamin Minjares, are you here? Should we proceed with this if he's not here?
Chair, if he was notified of the meeting, and all individuals are presumed to have been notified of the meeting because it's publicly posted, I think you can assume, if he's not in the room yet, and he's been called, that he has walked away from his appeal. You could, if you want to, just give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe move on to the next item, and then come back later. And if he's still not here, then assume that he's walked away from the appeal and uphold the disqualification.
Okay, on that recommendation from counsel for the Civil Service Commission, we will do that. We will just put this aside. Maybe he's running late, and if he shows up, we'll take it up as soon as we can. So that moves us on to item number 8, right? And item number 8 is discussion and action on disqualification appeal of Kenneth Antuña, EPPD Code Enforcement Ordinance 8065, Civil Service Commission Rule 5, Section 1A, applications and appeal. Are all sides present here?
No, Mr. Kenneth Antuna did not sign in either. I'm not sure if he's here. Make yourself present, but he did not sign in.
Okay, then we'll put that one aside in the same way as we put the previous item aside and move on to number 9, and that is discussion and action on disqualification appeal, Stephen Flores, Capital Improvement Department, Ordinance 8065, Civil Service Commission Rule 5, Section 1A, Application and Appeals Policy. Are all sides present here on that?
Stephen Flores did sign in, Chair. So he
Okay,
is here.
all right. Then, should we proceed with, is the first person to address the issue?
Yes.
Okay, please step forward.
Good evening. I'm Julie Farmer. I'm the HR manager for Capital Improvement Department. So appeal that was received for Mr. Flores was for a recruitment for engineering specialist.
Excuse me a second. Get the microphone and could you talk right into the center of it so that way we can all hear? Thank you.
So I'll start again. So
Okay.
I'm Julie Farmer, HR manager for Capital Improvement Department. Appeal was received for Mr. Flores for an engineering specialist position in our department. Position requires 6 years of paraprofessional engineering, construction, or project management experience, along with an associate's degree. Mr. Flores holds an associate's degree, however, he lacks the 6 years of experience. We totaled 3 years and 8 months, so he lacks a few years and a few months. He did provide supplemental experience for time as a laborer, and time that he served with the city under streets and maintenance as an electronics technician. However, in our review, he still lacks the minimum requirements of the position.
Okay. Any questions? All right, so our next step is to hear from Stephen Flores. And
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Flores. I'm here today to discuss my reasoning for appealing for the disqualification for the position of engineering specialist. Do I start over? Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Flores. I'm here to discuss my reasonings for appealing my disqualification for the position of engineering specialist. I was informed that I lacked the minimum requirements for this position. I have copies of the requirements with me, if I may share them to the council and then read the requirements.
I think we have everything here, don't we? Don't we have everything? in
It
this
should all
packet?
be in your packet.
Okay.
But of course, Mr. Flores can, mention them in his presentation.
Right. We call our attention to which item you want to refer to.
The requirements for the engineering specialist position.
Okay.
Requirements include education experience, associate's degree or higher in engineering, drafting, technology, project management, construction management, or related fields, plus 6 years of increasingly responsible paraprofessional engineering, construction, or engineering project management experience.
Okay, why don't you just help us move along here and get to the point of why you think you should be included here. I mean, we just heard from Ms. Farmer as to why you should not. She's told us that you're required 6 years, and you have 3 years, 8 months.
Correct. The previous positions that I held of experience that do not meet fall under construction and paraprofessional engineering. I have a little bit over 2 years of construction experience with the ESA Construction Company, divided into 3 different time periods, 2017, 2018, 2019. When I first started with them in 2017, I was just a laborer, where I was tasked with demolition, concrete repair, and asphalt placement. My second year in 2018, I was then taught plan review to ensure when I'm tasked demolition to specify if there's any existing utility lines such as electrical, water, or plumbing, in case if I'm demoing an area, those utility lines wouldn't be damaged. My final year with ESA, I was then tasked to lead my own team as a foreman, since I had the experience for demolition, concrete, and asphalt, and had been taught plan review. I have copies and a letter from my previous superintendent at that position, if I may share them, or just read the letter to you.
Okay. Go ahead.
To whom it may concern, this letter is to verify that Stephen Flores was employed with ESA Construction from April 2019 to November of 2019. Stephen's position was a laborer/foreman. As a foreman, Stephen was responsible for tasks that required an understanding of structural integrity, material composition, and safety regulations. His work involved analyzing building components to ensure safe deconstruction, following engineering demolition plans, and coordinating with supervisor and on-site crews to execute precise removal process. Before any demolition, Stephen would complete assessments to determine the safest and most efficient method for deconstruction to prevent unexpected collapse and ensuring nearby structure remain unaffected. Mr. Flores has knowledge, skills with hands-on experience, and ensuring hands-on experience with controlled demolition techniques, heavy machinery operation, and environmental hazard mitigation skills that align with core engineering principles of demolition. His role required adherence to occupational safety standards, environmental regulations, and site preparation guidelines, all of which are critical in construction and infrastructure development. By working closely with project crews, he developed a deeper understanding of load-bearing structures, risk assessments, and site planning. Reinforcing knowledge of engineering applications in real-world scenarios. The work completed by Stephen was not only manual labor, but labor that directly intersects with multiple engineering disciplines, particular structural, civil, and environmental. Thank you.
And that was when you were working with ESA?
With ESA Construction, yes, sir.
ESA Construction, is this a private firm
It's a private firm,
outside of the city?
outside of the city, located in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Okay, and how long were you working there?
I have a little over 2 years, 2 years and 1 month to be exact.
Chair, very quickly, would you like me to bring up the document over to you so you can see it personally?
Would you care to see it?
Chair, if I may, so the letter that Mr. Flores read, I think was of benefit to the commission, but you all can, give that whatever weight you want to, but let me tell you, in truth, there are some issues with that. First and foremost, like Commissioner Bear said, we don't know who wrote it, we don't know the authenticity of the letter. Not saying it's not, but just for purposes of the hearing, right? And then secondly, the city makes its decision based on the information that the applicant presents during the application process. And during that process, whenever the employees are notified that they've been disqualified or that they don't meet certain minimum requirements, they then have an opportunity to supplement their application. And then the city receives that supplementation and they can review it and vet it. So the letter, it's been read to you all, but that was not part of the information that the city had at the proper time when it was making this decision. So it really is outside the scope. It's in a way too late. But it's been read, and I'll let you all consider it for whatever you think it's worth.
Right, tell us again who wrote that letter?
My previous superintendent, Noe Molina.
And he is the superintendent for this
He is,
private
sir.
company?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That you worked for 2 years and 1 month?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't have any problem with him submitting that if there isn't any problem on this side that as part of his application for this. Mary?
Sorry, Mary Wiggins, Chief Human Resources Officer. It needs to be submitted during the application, or at least during the appeal at the, at the very latest. But to bring it now, I mean, everything has already, it's too late to submit it at this point in time.
And I would agree with that, Chair. But again, it's been read. I don't think we'll take it in as evidence of his qualifications. And it may not even, at the end of the day, make that big a difference if it doesn't get him to the 6 years. But just wanted to make that clear to you all for future cases as well. There's a specific time by when all this needs to be provided. Employees are made aware of that. And as you've seen in the past, they do tend to supplement their applications once they've been notified that they're missing something. So just bringing that to your attention.
Did you know that this letter should have been submitted?
I did not know.
And if I may, I mean, so in his appeal process, when he appealed, that's the time that he is giving any additional information that he wants us to consider. And so that's the purpose. There's a timeline for the appeal. He has to submit anything he wants to consider. And we have plenty who appeal, and they submit documentation, and we're able to accept it because we can look at it, evaluate it. At that time, HR would have evaluated what was on there, may or may not have, even called to verify the letter. But at that time, we could have called to verify the letter, the information. But at this point, since it wasn't submitted with the appeal, then that information was not brought forward to you.
Do you understand what they're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they're saying you're too late, but and I'm adding up your experience, though. 2 years, 1 month there, and then 3 years, 8 months with the city, right?
Correct.
And so that takes you to 5 years and 9 months doing what you've been doing. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so now you want to make sure you're in the pool of candidates that are applying for the next position,
Correct.
which means you have to take a test, right?
Correct.
And you haven't taken the test yet?
No, sir.
And you just want to take the test so that you can be in the pool of candidates that are being considered.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions? And so do you realize that, even if we were to approve you here, you would still just be a candidate, not just a candidate, I don't mean to put it down like that, but you would still be a candidate, and you could still be turned down. Let's say you don't make the test, or let's say you make the test and now you continue on to the next step. They can still take a look at this and disqualify you on these items here.
Correct. I understand that. I would also like to add my experience with the Streets and Maintenance Department as an electronic technician, if I may.
Go ahead.
When I was with the Streets and Maintenance Department as an electronics technician, I have over 11 months of experience. My job description consisted of paraprofessional engineering experience because it involves practical application of engineering principles and skills under the supervision of higher level engineers or specialists without requiring the individual to have a full professional engineering license. I was tasked with troubleshooting and repairing, which involved diagnosing and repairing a wide range of electronic and electromechanical equipment, such as toll systems, traffic signals, and circuits, and engineering principle, which is typically taught. I was also tasked with maintenance and control systems, repairs and maintenance of complex control systems, such as instrumentation, control systems such as those used in utility plants and process involving engineering knowledge of systems and instrumentation, which closely related what an engineer would handle. I'm also knowledgeable in safety protocols, maintenance procedures, and reading of schematics and plans which are high key in engineering and the engineering work. I would also coordinate with engineers regarding traffic studies involving the timing of the phases for the lights. Traffic studies such as the volume of vehicles crossing intersections as well as pedestrian, the volume of people crossing the intersections. So in summary, I worked with engineers with my time as an electronics technician, basically assisting them wherever I can, and I feel that should be considered.
How much
engineering.
time are you talking about there? How many years?
11 months.
11 months. So you have 3 years, 8 months in your current position, right?
Correct.
And now you want us to consider 11 months in this previous position that you held?
Correct.
Is that right?
As well as the 2 years in construction.
And then the
since-
2 years with ESA?
Yes, sir.
So really with the city, you've been here 3 years, about 4 years and 9 months, it looks like to me.
Correct.
Okay, so 4 years and 9 months, and then with ESA, another 2 years and 1 month.
Correct.
Okay, so you figure all that should be considered.
Yes, sir.
And you're telling us that the ESA program that you, or job that you had, you did not know that you should have had this letter in at the time you applied?
Correct.
All right. Any other questions? I'd like to ask Ms. Farmer a couple of questions, please.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Ms. Farmer,
sir.
you heard everything he just said now, and he
Correct.
just brought up his work with the private company ESA in Las Cruces, was it? Correct. Okay, 2 years and 1 month, plus he just went over another 11 months with us. Doesn't that give him the experience he needs to qualify to take the test?
So, a few things. So he's actually already taken the exam. They answer questions as part of their application, and he passed the exam. However, his experience, didn't match what was required for the minimum requirements for the position. So that's why he was sent the appeal. On regards to his contract experience with the construction company outside, he provided the 4 supplemental work experience forms, and it was very minimal. And it was repeated 4 different times, the exact same wording, entry-level carpentry, tile work, and so forth, and that's all we had. And then with the city, as an electronics technician, we verified with our subject matter expert, which is my interim director for capital improvement, and it's not relevant experience as listed on the minimum requirements for this position.
Okay.
And I would defer to him on why it's not relevant. if you
I'm
would like.
sorry?
I would defer to Mr. Guerrero, our director, on why that experience is not relevant.
All right, before we go there, I asked him if he had taken the test yet. He said, as I understood, you haven't taken the test yet, but now you're telling us he did take the test?
Yes, there's a disclaimer on all of our applications for examinations, and it states there, and he acknowledged that he has taken an examination, and these questions are that examination.
And he passed that test?
Correct, yes,
This is the test he had to take so that he can move on to the next step?
yes. But then we go back and evaluate his application, compare it to the minimum qualifications, and make sure that he meets those minimum qualifications.
Well, congratulations on passing the test. I mean, that shows something there, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you qualified there. He's missing time then.
Correct, he's missing the years of experience.
And the 2 years, 1 month with ESA is not enough?
Based on what we received during the appeal process, no, sir, it was not.
And the 11 months he's adding in right now, that's not enough either?
It's not relevant experience as listed as a paraprofessional engineering, construction, or project management experience.
Chair and board members, if you look at your packet, he did supplement his appeal package and included his time with ESA. So while HR did not have the benefit of the letter that he read, he did have an opportunity to elaborate on his duties in the forms that he submitted to the city. And so that's part of your package. I just want to bring it to your attention.
Okay. So the next step for him, since he's passed this test, if we were to say we approve him taking the next step, this would just go back to your department to determine whether or not he's checked off all the boxes to qualify for the job? Because you still have a pool of candidates to choose from, right?
I think Mary's going to answer that one.
Well, again, this is kind of what keeps coming up each time. So once he's passed the test, so at this point, it's not about whether he passed the test or not. We give them the benefit of letting them go ahead so that does not stall our process in coming to civil service. So if we don't meet for several months, they're not still waiting to go take a test. So in the past, we've modified our procedures, so we go ahead and let that pass, and then we come here. But he doesn't meet the qualifications. So at this point, he would not qualify to be put on the eligible list. And so that would be my recommendation, is that he does not qualify. He still needs like 2 years. Now, these positions come up frequently. We've had these discussions before as well, that these positions come up frequently, and he'll have another opportunity, but he needs to get his additional experience before he can move forward.
Chair, very quickly, we're coming up on 15 minutes on this item, just so we're aware of the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Okay, any other questions? Anybody like to say something?
No, I just want to make a motion that we sustain the city's position.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Lucero seconds that.
Seconded by Homero Lucero. And, okay, so it's been motion and second, and we're open for a discussion on this, right?
Right. Or a
And-
vote,
And,
or up to you. If there's discussion, or you can proceed to vote.
yeah, there's discussion, so that's the procedure.
Yes.
Once it's been, the motion has been seconded, then we are open for discussion on that.
That's correct.
And I see the applicant's in the back, he's standing up, he wants to say something. So I'll give you an opportunity to go ahead.
The discussion is among us, not him.
Correct.
Okay, so then we cannot go take any more discussion from the floor.
Correct, Chair.
All right, so we're out. I'm sorry, the discussion's over there. But we've taken everything into consideration that could possibly be considered at this point. So, at this point, is there any other discussion on the motion at hand? If not, then I guess we can call for the motion.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. They're going to sustain the decision here. And I want to thank you for your time, and congratulations again on taking the test. I'm hope that this encourages you to continue hanging in there with the city, because you sound like you're a great candidate. I appreciate you taking the time to come up here, fill out all the paperwork, and state your case. That's the type of person that's needed, I think, in this type of a position. So I hope you'll come back.
Thank you.
All right. So that moves us on to item number 10. And that is discussion and action on disqualification appeal Elisa Gallegos, Parks and Recreation Department, Ordinance 8065, Civil Service Commission, Rule 5, Section 1A. And let me see, application and appeals policy.
For this one, Chair, just very quickly, we do have a member of the audience, a public person wanting to speak, Richard Castro, whenever it's time.
Okay, whenever we have time. And before us now, then, is?
Hi, good evening. Erica Salamanca, Human Resources Manager, and I'm representing Parks and Recreation this evening. And this is an appeal for the Community Center Supervisor position. The position requires a bachelor's degree and 2 years of recreation supervision experience. And the applicant, Ms. Gallegos, does have the experience, but she does not have a bachelor's degree. So that's the reason for her disqualification.
What are the duties that she has to perform as, that she's applying for, rather? What's involved in the next step that she's looking to advance to?
I can give you a brief description, but then I'd like to turn it to the representatives from Parks and Rec. But my understanding is that this would be a position where she would be overseeing a larger center than what she is currently doing now. But I'll turn it over to Parks. I don't know if Mr. Pablo Caballero wants to expand a little bit.
Good afternoon, sir. Pablo Caballero, Parks and Recreation, for the record. Yes, the community center supervisor oversees our largest community centers throughout the city of El Paso. We have 12 right now, and for this particular position, just to give you a note, all of our existing community center supervisors have a bachelor's degree. So it's more administrative and supervisionary duties because it's a larger facility.
And the applicant at present, what are her duties?
They're kind of the same because it's a rec center. We typically use the same activities, but in a smaller scale. They have less responsibilities in the admin side.
And here again, do we have a pool of candidates that we're dealing with, or that are standing by for this position?
Yes, we have a pool of candidates.
How many candidates do you have?
So I believe we have a total of 50 applications received, and out of the 50, we have about 16 that are waiting to be moved forward in the process.
You mean like 16 finalists?
Correct.
Okay, so your short list then is 16, right? Okay.
I think that's a pretty good list, but
Okay.
but yes, 16 pending.
Okay. Any questions? Homero?
I think this is for you, Mary, I'm not sure, but I noticed that this is going to be the third time she appeals on the same issue. So I
That is
want to
correct.
applaud her for trying,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I don't think that that's consistent with the others who, as testified, have the bachelor's
Correct.
degree.
Correct. We have 16 who have the experience and the bachelor's degree. And this is her third time appealing.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Elisa Gallegos, is she here?
Yes, Chair, she's here.
Okay. Hi.
Good evening, Commissioners and
Good
Chair.
evening.
Before we begin, I wanted to see if it is okay with the Chair if I pass out a few supplemental materials. And the reason it wasn't included in my package is because I was waiting for finalization of one class to get these records for school, which is basically the basis of my appeal. So I just want to see if I could pass this out.
Okay, according to our counsel, yes, you can, so. In the meantime, the issues here seems to be that you lack the BA degree, and I read someplace around here you're about 88% there.
Yes, with this class that just finished, I am now at 90%, and I do recognize that this is my third time appealing this, but I feel that shows that I am committed to wanting this, to sticking with it and finishing. I restarted in August of last year with a new university, with the University of Phoenix, and I did that because the class structure is a lot faster paced, and you have 5-week classes instead of semester classes. So when I initially started at University of Phoenix, I was scheduled to finish August 4th. But because I was committed to finishing, and I do want to move up in this position, and that is why I continue to go for this promotion, I did a couple of appeals and talked to counselors and things to try and move that timeline up. And I was successful in shortening that to being able to complete everything and be completed with the bachelor's April 21st. So it went from August 4th to April 21st, which is approximately 2 months away. And so I'm 90% complete, and I just need 4 classes, which the schedule is included in that second packet and the one I just passed out.
So you will graduate in April?
Yes, April 21st is the last day of the last classes.
Congratulations, and also congratulations on what we received here. It says here from July to December 2024, you've earned a 4.0 GPA, granting you a place on the president's list. Very well, very good, very good. We applaud you, and so do we.
Thank you.
Good, good. However, you just missed it again, it looks like. But I really commend your perseverance, and I think that sooner or later you're going to become the person that they're looking for this position.
So I did want to add that in the past, and I don't know how recently, Because this is an appeal and you do have the opportunity to grant me the opportunity to be on the eligible list, there have been cases, multiple cases, where the appeal has been granted because the applicant was so close to finishing. I believe there was some even maybe 8-9 months out. I don't know how long ago that was. It has been granted when there's 4 or a semester or so less as well, which is also another reason why I believe the civil service is good, because we do get the opportunity to just be on the list. This does not grant an interview, the position, just the opportunity to be on the list.
Well, here's your opportunity to persuade the members of the commission as to why they should allow you to become part of the pool. So why don't you give us a statement there as to why?
So with University of Phoenix, the classes are 5 weeks long, and that in and of itself makes it a little bit tougher because you're condensing one semester into 5 weeks. On the second page, it shows a schedule to where there have been, this is my second time doubling up on courses, which is taking 2 weeks in the, 2 classes, I'm sorry, in the 5-week period, which sort of adds to doubling the classes and making it that much more material. I chose to do that because, again, I am committed. This is something I want to do, and I was able to I had to persuade the school as well to let me double up, especially with the last 2 classes, which is also why I didn't include it in the packet. That one required more of an appeal because the classes, you need one for the other, but the university granted me to be able to take classes together because of what I had shown in the previous classes, keeping up with the GPA and doing all that while still working full-time. And I just feel that shows my commitment to the city, to the organization, and I feel I would just like that opportunity.
And how many years have you been doing this now?
With the city or the?
City.
I believe 12, 13 years, and these past 7 years have been supervisory. And I understand that is more administrative and it is overseeing a larger center. But after we came back from COVID, I was part of the supervisory team on those larger centers as well. So I have overseen a larger group of staff and done scheduling and admin based on that, in addition to the center that I run now,
What center is that?
the Army Hall Recreation Center.
Okay. Any other questions?
I want to ask Ms. Wiggins, have exceptions for
May I, Mary, first? Well, Commissioner, if I may. So, as your legal counsel, you are all the ultimate decision makers. This is a pretty, easy case to determine. There is no allegation or claim that the city got it wrong. It's just that you're being asked to overlook the minimum requirements. And it may be the case that before I came on board as legal counsel and before you all came on board to this commission, that there may have been some instances where something like that occurred. But that is not what we want to be doing. You do it once, and then you never know when you can't do it again. Here, the city, and as was mentioned in your presentation, the city sets the minimum qualifications because they get to decide who they want in their positions, right? They get to decide this is the minimum qualifications that we want for this position. Our job here today is to determine whether or not the applicant possesses them. And, I would strongly admonish you against any, thinking or proposal of waiving that, because then we'll be here on these meetings forever, because it'll just be a slippery slope. And it would not be in accordance with the rules and regulations that we've been tasked to oversee.
If I may ask a question, what you're suggesting, quite honestly, is the standard will no longer be the standard.
Exactly.
It would be completely and totally arbitrary.
Exactly.
Now, for those who've achieved those qualifications, that's not fair to them.
Exactly.
And since we're here representing the city, and your admission to us is to maintain that level of consistency.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And Commissioner, that's a very good point. Just as another tip from your legal counsel, you always think about the other employees, who are qualified and who did apply for it, in this instance and in others, right? So I'm glad you're doing that as well. Thank you.
At the same time, these issues this type of situation keeps coming up to us over and over again, meaning that we are given an opportunity to decide which ones that do not seem to fit within the little box should be allowed to go forward. So we as commissioners are given an authority here to say, well, it seems to me there's an exception. And that's something that we should consider, I think. Mary?
Well, go ahead, Mary.
Well, I would just say that you're not here to consider whether there's an exception. I don't think there's an exception. I think you're here to determine whether we got it right. You're here to determine that there is minimum qualifications, and when staff was reviewing those qualifications, did we not understand something? Did we miss something? Did we get it wrong? So you're just here to determine whether we got it right or got it wrong, not really whether exceptions, because once we make exceptions, then we have the employees come in and say, well, but last time. And so, we have to toe the line and be consistent. Or you're going to have even more here.
Do you want to take a, was there a motion or is someone?
No, there's no motion yet, but I'd just like to tell.
The reason for my question
Go ahead.
is not to, not consider, but to see if there maybe is an issue that needs to be looked at.
As far as,
Have exceptions been made? Is there something that HR needs to?
well, HR hasn't made exceptions.
Okay.
No, it wasn't HR that made the exception.
No, but I have seen our commission go ahead and approve and allow them to go forward anyway. I think that's what you're asking, for an answer on, have we ever done this before and said, yeah, go ahead anyway?
I'm wondering whether it's something that's been consistent or hasn't happened.
It has happened.
So,
but
and I don't mean to interrupt
Go
you. So I can tell you, I wasn't here, but I've been told that in the past, and just like the applicant, Ms. Gallegos, mentioned, there's word out there that in the past, some other commissions had erroneously, I will say erroneously and incorrectly, deviated from the minimum standard. And I will tell you now as your legal counsel that that is not what we should be doing. This one's easy. There's a bachelor's that's required. She's getting great grades and working her way towards it, but she doesn't have it yet. I don't make the decision, you all do, but I think this one's pretty easy in terms of a fair application of the rules, the facts to the rules. And Commissioner Brown, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm answering your question. Deviations have probably occurred in the past. They haven't occurred recently, and they should not occur at all, unless we have a rule that tells us we can, and there's not one that tells us we can at this point in time.
And Mr. Chair, if I may add to that, I believe we did mention it the last time we were here, and the board cannot, or the commission cannot bestow new qualifications to the applicants. But specific to Commissioner Bear's point, if you feel like there might be something in HR, you can potentially ask the department to report on that, and we can set that as an agenda item separately, and they can maybe provide, if there's ever an exception. But I would say that that would be an outside issue, not for this issue.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I've got a quick question for HR. So we can, if there's ever a policy recommendation that could eventually lead to the qualifications to allow flexibility for this job description, wouldn't that also affect the pay scale of this position?
Very good question. So, he's correct. So the position has a certain, like the pay is tied to because the person has a bachelor's degree or they have the amount of experience. And if we lower that down to someone who doesn't, then the pay does not correlate to the position, itself. It would be a lower paid position.
Just to add to that, and it would put pressure to skew towards the lower rather than reward those who have completed it.
Correct.
So as most of you probably know, when surveys are done for salary, you have a midpoint, up point, low point.
Correct.
And typically it's midpoint to the low point.
Right.
But in this particular case, I perceive, and I think probably prudent dictates that it would put pressure to lower And that would decrease the quality, this is my supposition.
Right.
It would decrease the quality of the applicant if the
Correct.
pay was lowered.
Correct. And
Thank
I
you.
mean, the good news is that, I mean, the next time we have this, she clearly will qualify, then. So we won't have to worry about that. She'll have obtained her degree with a 4.0. I'm confident, again, that she's going to have that. And so at this point, she does not have the qualifications for the position, but the next time that it's open, she will be able to be on the list, I'm sure, as long as she continues and finishes, and I'm sure she's gonna.
And then if I might follow up, Mr. Chairman, to take it, your counsel is to suggest that consistency allows the city to be able to be viewed as an arbiter of qualifications, that there is no fudge, if you will.
Exactly.
That's my word for it.
No, but that's right, that's right. And that's the communication and what's portrayed to all the employees, right? Not just those who are here, but those who aren't, but are still employees and part of the civil service system.
Or potential future applicants
Correct.
for positions. Okay, thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Mayor.
Okay, we're on 15 minutes on this item, and we also do have a member of the public wanting to speak on this item as well, Richard Castro, just so you all are aware.
Okay, well, let's hear from him.
Thank you, Commissioners. Vice Chairman Vasquez, congrats, thank you. My name is Richard V. Castro. I'm representing a youth athletics organization and speaking on behalf of Elisa Gallegos. I think we all are aware of the challenges that we have in trying to secure space when we need practices for our kids. And it's always been a challenge, growing up playing basketball. And that's how I had the fortune of meeting Ms. Gallegos. Just working hard, hustling, trying to find space for our kids. Came across Armijo from one of our parents who was doing the footwork. Met her, passed the information on to us, and we connected. In that time that we've interacted with her, it's been a great experience. She's, from our perspective, she does a great job of dealing with the kids, but I think it goes above and beyond that when we talk about community service, getting us involved and inviting our organization to participate in events that she has. She's very conscientious, proactive, and positive, industrious. An example would be there was I believe it was the electricians needed to do some electrical work, so they had to cancel our time that we had reserved. So she took it upon herself to find some space for us so that we didn't have to miss out on a practice. In my experience, in my work life, those are the type of people we identify and hold on to and foster a relationship to grow within the organization. And then put them in a leadership position, because it's all about great leadership, of course. I wasn't aware of the ins and outs of the qualifications, and it's a bit disappointing to hear that and how close she is, but I think you've seen for yourselves the persistence that she has, and it would be an enhancement to the city and to the department. In dealing with other rec centers, I can't always say similar things, but they always are helpful, and they always go out of their way to help our kids. In talking with her, in preparing for practices or preparing for events, she has shared that, because one of the other rec centers that we are involved with, they communicate. So I've seen firsthand how She networks with other rec centers and is helpful and proactive. I think it would be a great enhancement to the city and to the rec department, and to the recreation centers. If she has the opportunity, I think that's what she's asking for, is just the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Castro.
you.
Thank you very much. Okay, of the 16 finalists. Okay, of the 16 finalists, thank you, Mr. Castro, for being here tonight. But my question to Mary, of the 16 finalists, or either way, how many of them are current employees of the city?
Erica's going to have to tell you.
Yes. Sorry. We did have, out of the total that applied, we did have 16 internal applicants, and it looks like there's 14 current.
Current employees that qualify to be considered. Okay. All right, thank you. So our next step is,
A motion?
I call for a motion, if anybody,
This is Commissioner Lucero. I motion that we sustain the commission's recommendation to deny the appeal. That's the correct verbiage.
That's right. So
I
there's a motion.
second.
okay, motion has been made and seconded by Woody Bear. And open for discussion. Anybody want to discuss on this? I would just like to say that, as you had mentioned before, that you came on to the commission as counsel for the commission. This issue has been up before us before, and I was part of those situations where we did vote at times to go ahead and allow the applicant to move forward, because we were convinced that, well, there was just something overlooked here. They were so close. There was somebody from the public who came forth to persuade us that this is a good applicant and a city employee worth hanging on to and going out of the way for, like they go out of the way for us. So just to let you know. So with that, I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously? I'm sorry, Ms. Gallegos, but we've decided to go with the recommendation from Human Resources to stand the ground here. But we certainly appreciate all of your efforts, and you are definitely, your perseverance really shows that you are somebody that the city has to hang on to. And I certainly hope that you come back here after you graduate and apply again. Thank you.
Item number 11. Chair.
Item number 11.
For item number 11, Chair, Jose Ramirez did not sign in. I'm not sure if he's present here today, but he did not sign in.
Okay, we'll put that aside also in case he shows up.
Okay, we can continue, Chair, or do you want to
Yeah.
go and clean it up?
What?
The first one and the second one, see if those two applicants are here.
Well,
and if
why don't we
not-
do it at the very end? We're almost there.
Sure.
Okay, so let's move on to item number 12. Is Luis Monsivais here? Okay, good. So discussion and action on disqualification appeal for Luis Monsivais, New City of El Paso applicant for the police department, no, not the police department, this is police department ordinance, 8065 Civil Service Commission Rule 5, Section 1A, application and appeals policy, and Texas CJIS Systems Access Policy. All right, and
Good evening, Commission and Chair. I'm Samantha Soria.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, can you hear me? Good evening. Samantha Soria. I'm the Human Resources Manager for the El Paso Police Department. Today we are talking about Luis Monsivais. He applied for police trainee position and was disqualified based on his criminal history of a Class B misdemeanor in 2019 and a Class A misdemeanor in 2021. These criminal offenses violate the CSC Rule 5, Letter B, as being job-related convictions within 7 years. Additionally, the applicant's criminal history deems him ineligible according to state policies to ever obtain a peace officer's license. The Texas Commission on Law Enforcement governs the licensing of a peace officer, and the Criminal Justice Information Systems Policy governs the clearance for an employee to obtain access to criminal justice databases.
Was he made aware of those?
Yes, sir.
Of the TICO requirements and also the CJIS?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have, so can we move on and listen to Mr. Monsiváis?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Samantha Lozoya, right? Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Luis Monsiváis. I was not fully aware of what I needed to present here tonight. I just wanted to kind of take my time and appeal this. I understand what's on my record, but I feel confident enough to say that I served my punishment, and you know, I would just like the opportunity to basically apply, to go through the process, because I still need to go through a process, obviously, to kind of just prove myself that I'm a good fit for the position. Then that's pretty much all that I, you know, wanted to share with you guys.
Mr. Monsiváis, do you understand that state law prohibits you from being a police officer?
They advised me of that after the appeal.
So the city can't hire you because of that?
Okay.
When you applied, was it not listed in the requirements that you must have a clean background and stuff like that?
I had previously applied, I think it was last year, and I didn't get, I wasn't advised of that. I was actually invited to take the test, and I didn't go, unfortunately, because of work. Right now, I'm missing work. I'm supposed to be at work right now, but I took my time to let them know that, you know, I wanted to be here. But that's what I thought was strange, that I wasn't told that the previous time. And I put all that information in there. That's stuff that, you know, there's no reason for me to hide it. So I don't know why that happened that previous time, which was, I think it was in May of 2024 when I applied.
What kind of work are you doing now?
I'm a truck driver and dispatch. I have my commercial driver's license.
Just in town, or?
Just in town, yes, sir. Which, that was also an uphill battle because of my record, to obtain my commercial driver's license. But I was perseverant. You know, I set my mind to do it regardless, and, you know, it's worked out for me. And, you know, this is a little bit different, but that's kind of what I wanted to do here, just the opportunity to show that I'm fit. But, you know, as you guys are mentioning, that's, the state law doesn't allow that, so I understand all that.
How were you able to overcome that to get your CDL?
I just had to wait. I had to pretty much wait the time frame that they told me that I had to wait. But even applying at different companies was an uphill battle. Finally, you know, there was a few companies that were able to, that were willing to take the risk on me, and, you know, I appreciate that. So now I'm just kind of showing them that they didn't make a mistake.
And how many years was it that you had to wait before you could?
2 years.
2 years from
Yes,
the
sir.
time of the convictions, is it?
Yes.
And it's now been, what?
5 years.
There's
The conviction was 2021, and then the
2019?
incident was 2020.
2020 or 2019?
2019 and 2020.
On 2020, okay.
Yes, sir.
Counsel, am I correct? There is no time limit? It's just prohibited with a Class A?
I'm going to rely on what HR has told us, because I don't know it personally, but based on what HR has said, yes, this is one of those lifetime bans or restrictions from obtaining that license.
Right.
Just as a follow-up, so what you're suggesting is if we don't do what the city's recommending, we would potentially be breaking the law? And then therefore the personal liability, as we were presented earlier today, would kick in?
Potentially. And let me tell you what I think would actually happen as well. We sit here to advise the commission, and we serve as advisors to the commission. Now, the city attorney's office also advises the city and city HR. I think if we as this commission were to, for some reason, allow this gentleman who has obviously done, a lot of great things since his conviction to move on in this process, knowing that he will never get the license that he needs to get, they would tell you, and this is what I want to avoid actually as well, and I mentioned this to the commission when I first came on. I want the orders and decisions of this commission to be respected throughout the city. And I don't know what the city attorneys would do in this situation, but I would advise my client, city HR or city, refuse to follow the rule of the commission. And then that creates another problem, right? Where the city staff and upper legal divisions are not following what's coming out of this division, of this commission. So, and if that were to happen, your liability would stay here, but if, in some other instance, it could potentially expose you to personal liability, because we've been told that state law does not allow an individual with this type of conviction to obtain the license that's required.
Thank you.
No matter what, you wouldn't, no matter what, you wouldn't.
I presume.
You would not get the license to be a police officer.
Oh, no, because that's state law, right? I mean, we can do anything we want here at the city, and the state would be, we're not changing our rules for you.
And if I may, and I'm going to rely probably more on Ms. O'Gean to further, but just on my kindergarten understanding, we could go through the process, we hire him, he becomes a city employee, we do everything, but then he still has to go be licensed through TCOL to be able to do any police duties. So once TCOL denies him a license because of that, now we have him and we can't do anything. So but I'm going to let Ms. O'Gean better explain that.
Minnie Holguin, I oversee the Administrative Services Bureau for the El Paso Police Department. If I may, so TCOL is governed by the Texas Occupation Code, and they have a pre-employment process. We as a licensing agency must follow their pre-employment license. So they govern, and of course, they have specific requirements as to conviction. So there's a 10-year, as is stated in your packet, there's a 10-year disqualifier. And so we couldn't even submit his name to TCOL as somebody that we as a licensing agency want to certify as a police trainee, because we are knowingly not following the Texas Occupation Code and the pre-employment process that's listed.
Did you say 10 years?
Yes.
So that
For a
mean-
peace officer license. So there's different for a jailer, and for us it would be a peace officer license. So that's what we follow, is TCOL standards for a peace officer license, and that's a 10-year disqualifier.
It says here for a Class A, it's permanent disqualification. And he has a
Right, and Class B is 10 years.
But he has a Class A.
He has both.
He has both.
So the minimum would be 10,
So the Class
A.
He could overcome the Class B, but he can't overcome the Class A then,
Right.
right? But did you also mention something about being a jailer?
No, this is just a peace officer license. Perhaps the other thing is CJIS, Criminal Justice Information System. So in order this in fact applies to civilians, for us to even have access to anything that is considered part of CJIS information, we also have to be able to qualify under CJIS. So myself as a civilian, the HR manager, several of us, so certainly you'd expect that of a police officer as well.
What I was trying to ask was, would he qualify to be a jailer?
We don't have jailers with the El Paso Police Department, so I don't know what their standards are.
Okay, that would be a county
Yes, sir.
job. Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Monsiváis, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, sir.
Okay. Are we ready to call for a motion?
I make the motion that we sustain the city's argument.
I second that motion.
Okay, call for the question. Or first of all, any discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? None? Since there is none, I'd like to call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition? So the decision is sustained. Thank you very much for your effort. Thank you. Okay. All right, that moves us to item number 13, correct?
That's right.
And that is Hiram Samaniego here?
Chair, he was here earlier today. However, the attorney representing the Department for Parks and Rec submitted an email that he would not be able to make it today. So with that being said, I let the hearing officer, Patricia Palafox, know that he would not be here, and so she did not come either. So this item, we can move to the March 2025 meeting.
Okay, do we have to vote on that, or will it just automatically be moved over?
If we do a no action, which is what we're going to do, we can just roll on
Okay.
without a motion.
Can we combine all the ones that we did already? Into that same motion?
No, because 13's, well, actually, let me tell you, 13 can be a no action because
Okay. I beg your pardon.
there's some, plan to take it up at a later time. You could table it, but that requires a motion. No action is cleaner. The others, I think, you have the option of going back, and if the applicant is still not here, just resolve the issue with some finality by ruling in favor of the city, because you can presume that the applicant has dropped their appeal.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, so do we need a motion for no action?
No, sir. No.
So no action on no action.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, no action
So
today.
that one's done on 13, and then the rest that were hanging out there,
So that would be discussion item number 7, Benjamin Mijares, Streets and Maintenance. We can deem the appeal withdrawn since he did not appear today.
we need a motion on that.
I would do a motion just to be positive that the commission took an action on it. So,
Chair entertains a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead. Oh, you're going to have to state the motion.
Motion to
I would-
withdraw
If I may, Chair, I would just make the motion to sustain right, since the burden is on the employee to show that the city got it wrong. If they're not here to prove they got it wrong, it gets sustained.
Yeah.
So I would make the motion to sustain.
Can we make a motion on, because there was 2 items, right, 7 and 8?
if you call them all right now,
Yeah.
and they're all not here, you can make one motion for all of them.
That is 7, 8, and 11.
So if Ms. Menchaca will call those names just to be sure that they're still not here?
Okay, item number 7, Benjamin Mijares, are you here today? Are you here? Okay. Item number 9. No, I'm
Eight.
sorry, number 8, Kenneth Antuña, are you here? Not present. Okay, Jose Ramirez for item number 11. Jose, are you here? Not present.
So a motion on all of those
On all those to sustain the city's decision on
disqualification.
qualification for the named individuals.
Do I hear a second? Seconded by Woody Bear. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposition?
Motion passes.
And the motion passes, right. All right, so that takes us to the end of this party.
Yes, the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. No opposition? No opposition.
I
Thank
need a
you very
first and
much. Thank you,
second.
sir.
I need a first and second for the motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion to adjourn. Well,
Okay, first, Carlos Gonzalez, second, Mr. Romero Lucero.
she is, isn't she?
That's my job, sorry, everybody. Okay, the meeting ends at 7:39 PM. Thank you, everybody.